So the next one that we've got is we've tried to kind of mix them up as well. So the next one is a Q&A actually, with the lovely Rachel Shinn, who's the Wellbeing Lead at the gym group. And I know that kind of well-being has such a broad kind of topic within it. It covers a huge amount of stuff. But we're just going to kind of go through it and talk to Rachel about some of the things that perhaps kind of the gym group have kind of been doing and what they've been focusing on. So before I do that, I will let kind of Rachel just introduce herself and kind of her role.
Yeah, hello everyone, and thank you for inviting me to come and speak. Very exciting. So I'm the EDI and Wellbeing Lead at the gym group, and I've been there for 7 years, but I've been doing actively this role solely for the last sort of 18 months. So yeah, it's been really exciting, and it's never ending, isn't it? So it's just a really good space to be working in terms of establishing what impact you can make and where you can help make some change for your teams.
Absolutely. And we've obviously had numerous conversations kind of over the course of the last kind of 12, 18 months or so. But how have you built kind of your strategy around well-being, and how have you kind of brought this to life with all of your colleagues?
Yeah, so I think like lots of organisations, COVID was probably the catalyst for really being a bit more proactive about how we approach well-being. We've always done bits around well-being, but actually it made us stop and think, right, okay, how do we create some longevity around this, and how do we make sure that it stays as high priority as it has been throughout that period of change? And so in terms of how we've approached it, it was important for us as well to sort of take a holistic approach, understanding that, like you mentioned earlier, Paul, like, there are so many factors that can impact well-being and well-being at work. So we kind of broke it down into 4 pillars around financial well-being, social well-being, emotional well-being, and physical well-being, to broadly account for that. But then also, more importantly, we came up with principles to underpin that help shape how we do things, and to make sure that it kind of becomes part of what we do on our overall approach. So the principles are around leadership, so making sure we have supportive leaders who are advocates for well-being, that we have prevention, so ensuring that positive well-being is ingrained in how we do management, how we manage our teams, how our managers operate. Intervention, that we have the right resources and services in place to support our teams. And then lastly, development, around ensuring that we're continually talking about well-being, that we're providing learning opportunities, and that we're upskilling our managers to give them confidence to be able to have well-being conversations in the workplace as well. So in terms of how we brought that to life, I think a lot of it is around communication. And last year we used Mental Health Awareness Week as a bit of a platform to relaunch some of this stuff. So we created our own Wellbeing at the Gym Group manifesto, if you like, want for a better word, but it was basically a document that outlined, why is it important to us? What are we doing about it? How we focus our approach around those pillars, and within that, what's available to you as an employee? So financially, emotionally, physically, what do we provide for you? And then, within that, we outlined our principles as well. So we launched that as part of Mental Health Awareness Week. And then we also, as part of that, created a video of our leaders talking about their own personal experiences with mental health. And it was a really powerful video. And I think something about that shared experience is really powerful. And actually having our leaders do that was a way of us supporting, breaking down some of the stigma about talking about wellbeing in the workplace, and an understanding that it can impact everyone. So that was a really powerful way of kind of conveying that and bringing it to life as well. And then making it as easy as possible for people to find the support and resources. So we created a wellbeing hub in our comms platform, and we aligned it to our pillars, so that people can really easily find what's available to them, if they want something to do with physical health. And that, that ranges from things around, like, we have a menopause hub, we have information on there about, menstrual cycles, around cancer, around diabetes. So it's quite broad. And it's just a growing piece where it's a chance for us to kind of collate information for people to take that barrier away from our employees from having to search for information, and we can give them reliable sources and signpost information. So yeah, that were kind of the main things. And then in terms of the development piece, we've done a lot of work with Outliers in creating what we call our Lead Well and Wellbeing for Performance programs, which was, a way of getting this conversation a part of management practices. So leading with wellbeing in the forefront. So talking about resilience and building teams that thrive and building psychological safety. So stop there because I could talk about it for ages on that one.
There's quite a lot. And you've done an awful lot, and I guess having the pillars and then underpinning them with kind of what you mentioned, but the creating of the videos, did you find it difficult to get people to come forward to share their stories? How did you communicate that to your leaders in order for them to feel comfortable to share their stories?
Yeah, we're very lucky. We had a good response from people, and we didn't have to do that much persuading, and we had a real range of topics as well. We had one talking about sort of postpartum anxiety. We've had somebody who's had alopecia and the sort of stress and emotional impact from that. So we had a real range of people who were willing to come forward and share their experiences. So yeah, we didn't really have a huge barrier in terms of that. We're quite fortunate, I think. And I think because we had done so much open discussion about wellbeing previously, throughout COVID and prior to that, so people are generally quite open to sharing their experiences and supporting and advocating for wellbeing.
Yeah, I love that. And did you find that many more people were coming up to kind of share their own stories or coming to speak to kind of HR or wellbeing or some of the kind of employee resource groups once those videos have been shared?
I don't know if nobody specifically came to me, but I know we had a really positive response from that, and the comments that we had in when we posted it were just really lovely, and thank you so much for sharing, and it's good to hear, people had a really positive response to hearing those experiences. And it's hard to tell when you're in a multi-site business, how far it reaches people. But my kind of attitude is if it reaches one or two and it really makes an impact, that's kind of enough for me. And it's something that we've now keep, within our wellbeing hub for people to see. And if you're joining the business, we signpost people so that they straight away get an understanding of what kind of culture we're trying to create around wellbeing.
I love that. And also I can see Chantel on this call. Chantel's from New Look, and I know New Look have done something very, very similar on kind of their runway and kind of trying to share people's stories to make people feel comfortable. To sometimes it's reassurance, right? Sometimes reassurance is all somebody needs to know that they're not the only ones that are feeling this. And kind of what have been your priorities over the last 12 months?
So last year then we went through our investors and people we invest in wellbeing accreditation. So we went through that process, and we got our silver accreditation, which is amazing. But with that obviously comes a lot of recommendations of how can we push. We're competitive at the gym group a little bit there, so we obviously want to go for gold. It came with some really good recommendations particularly around emotional well-being, which I thought we were doing pretty well, but actually their feedback was around, it's great, you've got everything there, but how can you start making sure everybody's aware of this? Which is a real challenge, I think, if you've got a multi-site business and, they're member-facing, they're not sat at desktops all the time. So that was really my key focus around mental health, was how can we continue to promote what we've already got and make sure that people are aware of it, and how can we further support our mental health first aiders and continue to upskill them. So we've done a lot of things around creating posters that signpost everything that's in our wellbeing hub, EAP posters that then the teams can put up in their communal spaces in their gyms, and with QR codes that link through to our comms platform where they can find all the further details. So it's that kind of signposting piece. We also created manager quick guides. So that covered things like simple spotting the signs, simple prompts for opening up a wellbeing conversation, and then detailing all of our kind of processes for signposting through EAP, say, or other external other providers that we use to support wellbeing. So they had a one-stop little mini pack that they can quickly draw on if they want to know exactly, I'm having this conversation, I want to know where I can signpost someone to. They have that and they can keep that with them. And then we did a lot of work. We also ran some webinars through our EAP provider to really tell our employees like what's available within EAP, because there's so much more than just the 24-hour helpline, and they cover so many more things than just emotional in the moment well-being. We really wanted to share with our teams exactly what's provided in that service, so we ran some webinars on that as well. And then we worked again with Outliers to roll out a mental health ambassador program, and this is really focused on, we upskilled our mental health first aiders during COVID, and this was to kind of revisit and see, how are you doing as a group? What challenges are you facing? Where can we further support you and give you a bit of a refresher on your skills as well? And I think that was a really cathartic process for them, to be able to share some of the conversations that they've been having and some of the quite challenging discussions they've had to have. And it was helpful for me in terms of identifying where do we need to put some further support in around and really create a community for that group that's supportive for them. So we've done things like we're arranging quarterly check-ins so we can make sure that we're continually sharing what's going on and where further support might be needed for them. They've obviously had the upskill bit, and we've created another additional sort of ambassador pack that again is a bit more comprehensive than what we provided for everybody else. But again, it's kind of this prompts, conversation starting, how to structure your conversations, how to categorize kind of what types of cases are coming through and what the appropriate signposting for those cases are. And it's obviously you have to be quite broad with that, but it's just providing that extra support and transparency around how can you effectively have those conversations and support your teams. So yeah, there's been quite a lot of big focus on that really, in supporting those groups, and then upskilling another layer of our managers on mental health awareness as managers.
How many employees does the gym group have?
So we've got about 1,800 approximately, I think. Okay.
And I think you've done some incredible things. And for anyone, Rachel mentioned kind of Outliers a couple of times there. Outliers are actually one of our verification verification partners to go through and become an includability committed employer. So they're a really big part of includability. I think the one key and one common denominator between all of this is the importance of communication. It's great to have all these things on. It's making sure people are aware of them. If they need to go somewhere, where do they go? And it's the same with any awareness day. It's the same with any celebration day, month, week. Making sure that it's really, really communicated, not just during that day, week, month, but actually it's a continuous topic of conversation and communication. And it's that consistency and the regularity of that will actually then start getting through to the employees, and so that it becomes second nature to know, what does the EAP program do? How can I get upskilled in this? How could I support my colleagues? And I think that communication from top to bottom and then across the whole organization is just so key. But I would like to say you've done an absolutely incredible job. How many is in your wellbeing team?
Me. No, that's doing my team a disservice. It's predominantly me leading it, but I have great support from like our L&D manager and the whole team really, and our sort of senior managers have a good understanding of like why we're doing things. So everybody's very supportive, and that's why we draw on external organisations to support with certain things as well. But yeah.
Love it. I think a massive well done. We're actually going to kind of head into our first breakout room now. And in that, and if you've got any questions for kind of Rachel, I think she mentioned some incredible things there. And I think certainly what I've learned with kind of Dave and James and Chris, like building includability, is there is a huge amount that every business needs to do, and it's almost physically impossible to try and do everything. But actually, when somebody does something good, it's always worth asking a question, because we can just learn from each other. We're all kind of experts or specialists, or we provide a service, or we're in a team. So why not actually ask that question to be inspired? If there is a challenge, let's help each other overcome them. But we're going to go into our first breakout room, and following on from what kind of Rachel was just talking about there, I would really like the discussion. Introduce yourselves, make yourselves yourselves known to each other, but basically just discuss well-being in the workplace. So either the workplaces that you work in now. So what are some of the challenges? What are some of the really good stuff that you're doing as a business? Maybe something that you've actually you've played a part in implementing or integrating. So just make sure it's a really good, nice, broad discussion around the challenges and some of the successes that you've seen or been a part of within the organizations that you work with or that you work on behalf of. So we'll go into that, but now I think you've got about 10 minutes or so. So have a wicked room, and we'll see you in 10.